But the heads of the lights should be good, because all of them got changed over to LEDs through the past, like, 2-3 years.
Yeah.
So everything out there has been changed over to LEDs, so
Yeah.
even the ones that aren't working
Yeah,
are new heads.
the light heads has.
I have a related question. It looks like we spend about $43,000 a year on electricity through the road budget. Is that all just streetlights throughout town?
Couldn't say.
Okay, do we know how many streetlights that is? It seems like a lot.
Yeah.
Okay.
And they're changing a lot of those over to the LEDs, you know, they don't use near as much electricity.
And that would be the electric co-op then, right?
Right.
So, if we gotta do that, Sam would probably know, we could ask him, but I would say that's what.
What I understood is, if, when they are no longer usable, they replace them with LEDs. They won't put any more, hours or whatever.
And as far as the medium for the upcoming
Talked to
Christmas,
Dennis week before last. He was supposed to start the end of last week, so maybe he'll get here this week, I don't know. I'll check with him tomorrow,
that's for upcoming, he needed some replacement in the medium.
cause you got about 3 different breaker boxes that's gotta be changed.
Where they are, all of Christmas and all of it.
Any lights?
Everything's ready in the park.
The park got changed last year, new breaker box, new wiring, so it should be good.
Cause we're gonna light it up.
That's what I hear.
So,
Start whittling out all them lights we need, we'll be ready.
Is anyone else has anything for that?
You said you got.
Thank you, sir. John, you want to come next? We'll go ahead, because we switch this around just a little bit.
Well, right now, I guess everything's going good. I hadn't heard from the Pumpkins water plant, high service pump. I talked to, well, I finally got a hold of Mark today, he's in North Carolina working. But he said he got a thing, said there was a pump at the shop, but he didn't know if it was ours or not, but he's gonna check on it tomorrow to see. Other than that, things going pretty smooth. Same old thing, water taps and water leaks and main line breaking and same thing. While I'm up here, I want to clarify something to everybody, citizens and all. I've had 3 or 4 complaints about 2 men riding around a truck. So that's all they do is ride around the truck. Well, that's not all they do. I come up here and I get 4 or 5, depends, sometimes 10 locates a day. Well, these 2 men is riding around doing locates on pipes, water lines. That's where we get the 1 calls. But according to some people, it bothers them that they're riding around together. So if it bothers them, all I can say is let it bother them.
Well, and it was,
Because they're doing their job and they're doing what they're told.
and I mean, anytime we get a complaint, we check on it, it's just like whether it be a violation of ordinance or something, and there had been, so I called John and I asked him, I said, and he explained it to me, I said, would you please present to the council so we have a better understanding of what's really happening, it's not just 2 people, you know, hanging out together.
I know very little about what they do, but I do know this locate stuff. I rode the button one day to find the meter.
Well, it takes 2 men to run, to do this locating on the water line. And sometimes we can't even find it, we have to go back and pot dig. Just because we don't have no water, nothing in them to trace. It takes 1 man to move the box and locate it around with the valves and stuff, and the other man with a handheld machine to try to find the lines. And, like I say, that's not all, you know, and they ride around different places, but just like the other day, they were going around the back road, let's see, last Friday, I think. Or
Yeah, it was Friday.
Last Friday, well, 15 minutes before, they found their main water line coming from the water plant had to break in. Wasn't a monster, but it could be. But we got it fixed, and they just happened to run across it and see it. So, you know, it bothers some people, them doing that, but it don't bother me, cause that's what they're told to do.
How long you been in the city?
Me, going on 39 years,
Are you these guys' boss?
yeah, I am.
I think you know what you're doing. I'm not gonna sit up here and micromanage you. That'd be like you coming to the store and telling me how to
Well,
run the pig.
You know, it's just like somebody calls up here and reports something, I gotta go, that's what I do.
Exactly.
Well, and when it is, if it's a valid concern and they come in the office and they're complaining, then you know, you take it to the department head, the department head addresses it and we go forward. So the thing is, and that's what we did Friday, and John and I discussed it, and we said, well, John, you handle it and address it with the board and let's record it so we know what's happening and why it's happening, so we move on. So, and we do appreciate it, and like I said, it's, we nip this one in the bud, we'll do the next one, you know?
Yeah, they always gonna be somebody unhappy.
Yeah, it's just amazing, a lot of them have been involved before, it's just is what it is, right?
Hey, John, y'all doing a good job.
And thank you. And, Travis is,
The backbone of this.
A quick question, John. You had said you weren't on the Randy Tate, the old Mountain Memories, you weren't sure whether there was 1 or 2 meters back there. There's just one?
we called him today, and, we're actually, John's going to meet with him this week. We're gonna meet with him and take care of that issue. We
Okay,
actually
good.
talked to Randy and his wife today, while we were in office talking about all these multiple issues, so he got taken care of, and I think he said he was gonna call you before Thursday, morning. So,
Yeah, he said he had to look at the schedule.
Yeah.
It might be Wednesday, Thursday, could be Friday.
Yeah.
So it's up to him.
yeah, so, but he's gonna call him, because John said he'd rather go there and meet him than, you know, talk on the phone. So, that one was done. We have Travis here tonight too. Travis, do you want to give us an update on what we're doing and what funding? We know we're applying for multiple venues with Beth, and then funding's supposed to be released soon from 2 different avenues, and we just hope they would make some of the announcements soon.
Yep, so, a couple of things that, the art grant, that we applied for, several weeks ago, I spoke with a couple of folks about that grant, and, they had tentatively said that that grant would be awarded. That was an amount of $500,000, I believe. And so we put in a PER based on what the knowledge that we had at the time of the sewer system. Since we did the flow study, gathered more data, then that wasn't exactly what was needed, so we had a different plan that needed to happen. And at the same time, parallel, we applied for the CDBG grant to cover, that same project, to cover the difference. And so I think the total was maybe 1.3 million total. The indication is that, Monteagle will be awarded the CDBG grant, although they have not officially come out with the rankings yet. And so I would anticipate that should be out anytime. That they're typically due in August, so I would think anytime that we should hear about that. So those 2 grants together, for 1.3 million. I spoke with the ARC, grant administrators, and they were, agreeable to let us resubmit the PER that would cover some other, higher priority, repairs that were not initially in the, PER, like some of the water tank repairs that would let us do water and sewer. But we would have to resubmit a PER that explained that we went through the process of doing a flow study and capacity analysis, and we were able to eliminate some, expected repairs that we thought we might before we did the study. That wouldn't take as much money as what we had originally assumed, so they would let us do some work on the water side and some additional sewer work, that the town needs as well, as long as it's within the same area. They said as long as it did not go out to some other part of town that was unrelated to the original area that we had submitted. So we're really waiting to see the official announcement of whether, the town is awarded the CDBG grant or not, because that hinges on what the PER would say. so we're just in a holding pattern on that.
Well, I know that Beth Jones as well, in Southeastern Development, and Sound Seed is working on, as we know, we have a master plan for infrastructure, because there's, is it 3.6 billion that's being given to the state besides the COVID money that was released. And there's several pockets, and they're saying infrastructure, and that is not maintenance, but it's upgrades, correct? And new facilities is the terms they're using, so we know we've looked at the GIS systems for the town, we've looked at the water systems, we've looked at the water tanks, we've looked at all those repairs, as well as we're in the process of looking for Parks and Rec, police, fire, and there might be some tourism dollars. So what they're doing with the Travis and with, of course, John and whomever they need to talk to, is trying to pull together all the information so we're ready to go through the DUNS process when that money's released, which means, and what they've said is skin in the game, just like we had to do with the sewer plant, Alvin was here then, that we had to approve a state revolving fund loan at a low interest rate, and then when the money was released, a large portion of that, 50% was forgiven at like a 1.75% interest rate. This time, they feel like it's gonna be more 80-20 is what they've told us, because it's a one-time thing, so you don't count on it, but you could do this maintenance and these upgrades, which would take the town into an area that we could do true depreciation. We could do a lot of things that would not be able to do in the past. Actually, Travis mentioned this to me today, and I asked him to check with Sound Seed, which is working with them. And Nate, I don't know if you've heard anything about this or not, but there was actually some sidewalks funding being released.
I saw that in Town and Country that they had talked that maybe might happen.
Well, Travis is working on it. Of course, we like deadlines around here. Travis is real good with them. So it's up to $1 million. At, was it 5%? 95.5?
It was, the deadline's actually Thursday.
You're good. You can meet a Thursday
And
deadline.
so, yeah, and I thought maybe y'all had already,
Sam may have, but I don't know.
Yeah, and I'll find out tomorrow when I let the message to Sam, and he and I play Monteagle, but it's a 95.5 grant up to $1 million, so the town's part would be 50,000, as part of that, and so,
Is this what's the name?
it's a multimodal.
We already have a multimodal, so we're not eligible.
Okay.
But now, does the town have it? That's why I wanted to find out. So that may be the reason he hasn't pursued it, because I didn't know when you say we, if you're talking about Monteagle, if you're talking about the town.
It's the town.
This is a 95.5.
We have $1 million 95.5.
So you've got it right now?
Yes.
So that's the one that you've talked about, that's going from
Sidewalks
Sonic?
downtown, yeah.
Is that the Sonic one?
Yeah.
Okay, all right, so
We already have that.
that answers that one. So if the American Recovery Act is gonna have different pockets, you can do these at different times, which that just said we can put ourselves back in a position that we can be eligible to get quite a bit of that funding. We did get a notice that we would receive the 366,000. And with their CPAs and auditors, they've got all the done stuff ready and they're ready to apply. We're not one of those cities that don't have our information together. They have given restrictions for that, so they will release. Because when you and I were at that meeting, that training session Monday, they said there is a pocket called replacement money. So what Deb's doing with our auditor and CPA is to see how much money we lost during that year. And that can go back into general funds, but that's the limit that we can only do with it.
One thing I did notice from some of these funds that are coming in is they do have money for stormwater. And I'm wondering if there's a possibility to stack this multi-motor with some stormwater funds, because Keith and I have talked about it. The big wild card in that whole grant is the cost of the stormwater infrastructure. And there's stormwater needs on both sides of Main Street. What would be the best way to explore that?
So a lot of the, funds that are coming out are water, sewer, broadband, and storm. And so you can, just your portion of whatever that a multi-grant has that would not cover the storm drainage, which typically some projects is the greater portion of that project, depending on what your drainage part is. You would have to use that funding over here that would help pay for that. So instead of you just paying it out of your pocket, you're gonna use this, which is already allocated for stormwater projects.
What do we need to do to be ready to get to go after some of that money? Because I know we've got stormwater issues on both the side that we've got that multimodal on, but also on the other side, and if we fix the stormwater, we're gonna have to put new sidewalks on top of it,
Yeah,
right?
that's right.
So there could be the it's an opportunity we ought to explore, I think.
Yeah, and so, some of these are competitive grants, and so the money will be released to those who are ready first. And so having that knowledge and information ready will put you in a good position, to be able to use that and be shovel ready, like what you said back in 07, 08 with the RO funds. So having, your mapping for your storm, your water, your sewer, understanding where everything's at, what needs to be done, so that you can develop projects and have those sitting there ready, so when that money comes out, and you're ready, because what's gonna happen is with all these funding, that's coming out, a lot of the contractors are going to be, they're picking and choosing right now is what we're seeing. We're also getting material, letters from vendors saying that there's shortages, and so really the first projects in line at some point are gonna be able to get that, but as you get farther back in the back of the line, you're probably it's gonna be hard for you to spend that money. So having shovel-ready projects when all this starts coming out is really the best situation for the town.
That's why Beth had told us, that's the reason they've started working on a month or so ago. When we did our training session, our first planning session, that's the way it was always prepared before. If you were ready, then you could assume it, but if you don't, you're gonna miss that opportunity in that window. So, but I mean, it's not gonna be just randomly spending money, it's gonna be on projects that we need, that'll do the longevity for the town. Then that gives us additional money as we're building road infrastructure. And roads is not, as we know, infrastructure. That's maintenance. I really don't understand that, but I don't make the definition of what.
So
There's also money coming out to the counties. There's a formula on the website, and so the counties are being, allotted 2.1 million plus 800,000 times the population divided by the state population, so it's a ratio. So you're guaranteed at least 2.1 plus whatever that 800 times the ratio is. It goes to the county, which only can be used for water and sewer. So a lot of counties are getting funding that they are allocated for assets that they don't own, and so they are to divvy that out to the city seats or the cities inside of the counties. So there's also some potential there that comes through the county. There's probably 3 pots of money that are coming out as far as the stimulus money. There's the governor's fund, and there's the ARP, and then there's the county money that's coming in as well. So, and then you have the ARP and CDBG, which is separate from that. So there's a lot of opportunities. The big push is gonna be who's project ready, who's shovel ready, whose project's gonna get in line first, and the ones that are in the back of the line are gonna have a hard time getting out of the start.
So do we still have time to think about what we need in terms of sidewalk through something, and what we need in terms of stormwater, or is there something we need to be doing?
I think the first thing is getting your mapping and your, as we talked about before, is getting all that established, because there's not a machine to really plan and to house all that information needed to flesh out projects without that. So, to me, that's the first step that you really need to build projects on. And then, once you have that base foundation, of information, then you can start putting projects together, putting an estimate of cost on that, and then you can start lining those up. What's the highest priority? You can do that for water, sewer, storm, and then from there, you can see, which one of those go first, which one will go to the back of the line. And then as more money becomes available, then you just push those projects up to the front of the line.
Was stormwater included in that proposal you gave us several months ago from GIS?
It was not. I think we talked about that originally, and we dropped that off. That was water and,
Water, sewer,
Water,
and
sewer.
and roads. Well, we added the roads back. If we did the entire thing, you said the 3 would be 98,000. If you recall, somewhere around there. That was our roads, their streets. So,
I would recommend taking the streets off, because that's, to me, you're not getting, and not that they're not important, but I think right now you've got some funding that will pay for some of this other infrastructure, and not have to come out of pocket for some things, so unless you have some needs, then I would probably drop off the streets and maybe replace that with a storm sewer, especially if you have projects already, kinda in line and something you can use some of the stimulus money for. That would be my thoughts, but.
So the stimulus money would pay for the GIS on the stormwater?
It would. The problem is, I think, is you can, you have to see if that money is retroactive. A lot of this funding won't be
It's not,
retroactive.
that's what we were told so far, it's
So
not.
the problem's gonna be is, you gotta wait to get the money before you can figure out what you gotta do, or you gotta spend some money, figure out what you're gonna do to be ready for the money. And so, if you're kinda in a tight spot that you don't really have a good base foundation of information, and so if you wait to get that first pot of free money to figure out what you're gonna do, then you're gonna be at the back of the line, so to speak, but it's.
We gotta spend money to get a shot.
Yes.
Get it more.
To spend your money the most efficient way. Somebody can guess and spend money, but it's really a bad use of money. I mean, I know it's maybe tough for folks to understand, but it's really a more efficient way of spending your free dollars, getting things done that really need to be done, instead of just guessing and then you squandered your free dollars because you really didn't know what was going on with, in your system. So.
Well, then what it sounds like we need to do is between Travis and Sam, is to add the stormwater mapping onto the GIS system and deposit infrastructure while we're doing this master plan to submit. Whether we have to fund it and then get X amount given back to us, because that's basically the way it works, and what we've been told from Beth and her multiple facets talking to you, and of course in our meetings, is everybody's expecting us to have skin in the game. That we'll have to be willing to not only prove that we can see it through, but we also, in the economic development meeting I was at too, they said that we're willing to invest in the future just like anyone else has. And then,
So we've been waiting on this GIS inventory, thinking that maybe the recovery funds, ACT funds would cover it.
Yeah, not knowing exactly, we talked about that several months ago, when really, the folks in Washington and everybody else really didn't know how it was gonna flesh out, and so now that all that is being rolled out, like the mayor said, they're gonna expect some skin in the game anyway, and so whether you can claim credit for that, hey, this is the money I've spent so far to get to here, I think you can make a case for that, but, we just, at the time, we really didn't know how all that was gonna flesh out, how the money was gonna be distributed, and if it was gonna be retroactive, and so we put in for a lot of grants, and it just, I think they're holding back on some of those, because I think they're gonna attach some of this free money and funnel that through the SRF program, and the CDBG program, and the ARC program, and so they're waiting on to try to tie all those together, and so, the people that keep waiting, we may be sitting here in February trying to figure out, realistically, that this is where you're at, and now you still really don't know what's going on, and you might have to guess at some point, you gotta pull the trigger and
Well,
make
that
a
was
decision.
my question, what's the time frame? I mean, how do we
you don't
know?
You don't know. You can't, this is like, I'm reading a crystal ball right now, because the way they're doing money, they could say, well, they told us, that Monday we were there, said, if you're ready, if you got your guns number and your accounts are set up, that's the reason we came back, we got Debbie to check it, is that money's gonna be released in October. Well, there's only gonna be a window that's gonna be released. And if you're not ready, there was 60-something counties that wasn't ready, they said, the comptroller did. The day we sat in that meeting, I can't remember. But he had said, if they don't prepare and get this done, there's a window, and you're gonna miss your money that you're supposed to get. So, ours is ready, but there's so many counties that are cities and towns that aren't ready. But John, I have a question for you. We've talked about it. We see that this mapping system is important. I mean, it's almost, if we don't know what we're doing, what is your input on having the GIS system for the water, the sewer, and the stormwater? I mean, how beneficial do you think it is for us to get that done so we can do this other work?
Well, I think it'd be great. And I talked to him about it before the meeting started.
Yeah, I think,
I think it'd be great. And 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 I think it'd be great to get some of these lines located, get a GPS. Big Creek's got a, you remember their system? Anyway, they got theirs where the BB, the guy that used to work out there, he can get on his phone and he can pull, like if it was us, he can pull your water meter up and tell exactly where it's at on his GPS map. And I think it'd be a great thing, because what I know about the water lines, and what Keith knows about the water lines, we ain't gonna be here forever. We're gonna be gone, then the next one's gonna be gone.
Well, we're still spending money and trying to fix them right now, so,
Yeah.
and we're talking about $100,000 probably, just from what you've given us before.
And that's not just mapping's a piece of it, but it's really the asset inventory information that goes with that is what will flesh out projects. So how much 2-inch water line do you have?
Right.
How much of, old 1950 sewer pipe do you have? How many sewer pipes do you have that are defective? And it's all that information that we would take and put projects together. The mapping piece allows everyone to look at it and plan, and it's a good tool. You have maps here with your master plan, but it's information that's attached to that is the key. And so the map is really a sideshow to all the information that feeds into that.
Something people don't see, but it's an investment, it sounds like that we really need, because if we don't have that, we'll just keep fixing things and we really don't know what we're fixing. Just like the issue we were talking about with Mr. Tate. If we had this in the map, we wouldn't, y'all know, but exactly, we could go look and see, explain it to him, download it, send it to him. And not only that, as we prepare other developments in other areas, then it would be in there, correct?
Yeah.
So, and it
It's just
would,
a planning tool that, as contractors get busier, it's gonna be very difficult to get folks to bid on your projects. And so what happens, that translates into, you're gonna get less for your dollars to repair because bid prices go up. And so instead of getting, spending $1 million to fix 10,000 feet of pipe, you're gonna spend $1 million just to fix 5,000 feet of pipe or 2,000 feet. And so your free dollar's gonna go not as far as they would, because contractors are gonna be stacked up and they're not. You're gonna be a hard time finding folks to bid on projects, and when they do, the prices are gonna be much, much higher because they're busy. And so, everyone's gonna be in that shape except those who first get their projects in, until it somehow it planes off, and there's gonna be a time where, people are gonna pay the peak price when they're kinda in the middle of the line. So, it's hard to say when that's gonna be, but if you're not ready, then you're most likely not gonna be in the front.
So what happens if you remove roads and add stormwater? Roads and stormwater seem pretty tightly related. Can you?
There are a lot of that on stormwater mapping. When we do those projects, we can pull a lot of the information, like on TDOT highways, we have access to their TDOT site and all their TDOT structures. We use LiDAR, which is provided by the state at 2-foot contours, and so we can pull a lot of that information along state routes off of that. And so really, in a rural setting, it's, when you get out of town proper, there's not much except open area ditches, and so you really don't have a lot, so to speak. So it could be cheaper, just to have to look at your system and see what you have.
Really, Keith's gone. John, you know that we don't have really stormwater outside of Main Street and any of the other streets, do we? I don't think unless a little bit of college has some, but I don't.
Yeah, well, small bit, college. What's it off, man?
So mainly what we'd recommend in rural settings like this is most cities or towns of this size have some major drainage way, whether it be a creek or whatnot that goes through there. And so we would, just define those on the map to show the main drainage ways, and wouldn't venture out much past where your main infrastructure is that was installed. And so that just at least allows you to configure drainage basins.
Well, it sounds like you're recommending we go ahead and do this before we get the funding, so we're better able to spend the funding. Is that what you just said?
I think so, yeah, because otherwise, you know, if you come to me in 2 months and said, hey, we got, you know, $3 million, how can we spend it? I'm gonna have to guess, because I don't know what kind of pipe you have in your system, I don't know how much, I haven't looked at it. You know, I don't know how much 2-inch water line, how much old galvanized, you know, that kind of thing. So it's gonna be very difficult to efficiently spend any amount of money without getting that information first. So it's kind of a, just risk to spend your money efficiently to do this late.
Harder question, who owns the stormwater, the utility district or the city? Is it a general fund item or is it a water and sewer item?
No.
No, it is an infrastructure thing with water and sewer, it would be, wouldn't it? Cause,
Yeah, you know, Public Works and a lot of cities own that, and there's a utility department that owns the water sewer, and.
well, that street.
So it sounds like it's John's problem.
Wait a minute, that's a state highway, that's not even our stormwater thing, Nate. What you're talking about going through the town is the state highway, we don't own that.
TDOT would own anything along. the state
TDOT
highway.
owns all of it, so really that wouldn't be ours to deal with, we'd have to go back to TDOT, and which.
But if we wanted new sidewalks on top of the stormwater, that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, so.
if we had fixed
We're
stormwater-
not saying though, it's still, we would have to get TDOT's approval, which they should be willing to invest, they're the one with the money anyway. I mean, come on, but here's the thing, we still know we need the GPS, or GIS. I finally learned the acronym, but as I was just talking to Debbie, we would have to amend the budget to approve it, but she could find out tomorrow how we could do that, because they're both telling us, if you don't get this done, this is almost, we've done this long enough, we need to decide if we want this GIS system, and include
I'm
these
with you.
3 components, and
Depending
we
on
will
which
talk to
fund it
TDOT,
comes
we will be calling the commissioner of TDOT, we become friends with commissioners, and find out, here's our issue, how much are you going to, are you gonna take care of this problem, or are you gonna give us more money, or should we put it in ours and you're gonna reimburse us, so, give him 3 options, and
Yeah, I'm with you, I just wanna know, if we approve it, can we approve it all out of the water and sewer budget?
well,
And
that's
not
what I'm
out
saying, it
general
would
fund. It
have to
sounds like
come,
we can.
it sounds like it could come out of water and sewer, but the thing is that, but we can't approve it until we go through the proper process of. Travis, how quickly can you find out how much it is, so we could have a special meeting to move forward with this?
I can send something before the end of the week to you.
So we could actually schedule a meeting to address this one issue, because it sounds like right now we're at a critical point if we don't do it. I mean, we've gotta have it anyhow, but if we don't do it, regardless, when we start spending the money we're given right now, we know, and any additional money, we're not gonna be spending it wisely. But if we have, and it works right, we can use this money we're spending today as part of their skin in the game.
So it's all on you.
Well, we've gotta do a special meeting, so
He's
many
gotta get
days
a
out,
surprise.
we do it 14 days out, and we announce it tonight, that'll work, right?
As soon as he gets
You
it.
could, well, you have the price within that 14-day window, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Alright, we're ready.
So we're talking about pulling out roads, and your last quote gave us water and sewer plus roads, and we're talking about pulling out roads and adding stormwater.
Yeah, I think we had a couple of different versions floating
Yeah.
around, I hadn't looked at it in a while, but yeah,
Yeah.
that's what I would recommend, is just pull the streets out and then insert your storm. Especially if you're doing sidewalk projects, I mean, you don't wanna install a new sidewalk on an old corrugated metal pipe that needs to come out, so.
Well, that multimodal has $500,000 in it just for stormwater, because we didn't know what we were getting into.
Okay.
And if we could get some stormwater dollars, we could go a lot further than we can with that money.
Yeah, and like I said, if it's a state highway, I think they need to invest.
Well, they said that they would do that. They said if we had existing stormwater, remember we had that meeting with the commissioner, he said if there were existing issues, they would correct the existing issues, but they wouldn't do upgrades.
Well, and we're not asking for upgrades, we just want to fix the problem, you know?
Which that project would show any deficiencies in the stormwater that you would then turn to TDEC and say, here's my list of deficiencies in your storm system, here's a plan to replace them, and then work with TDOT to get those replaced.
And now American Recovery Dollars, and I think that's what they're calling this right now, there's another one coming out, we'll do upgrades, Nate. I mean, they define upgrades are included, maintenance is not included, but upgrades are included.
Well, before we discount the roads though, so this infrastructure bill that supposedly is gonna get passed, do we know whether that money's gonna get filtered down to municipalities? Could we-
Yes.
It's supposed to, yeah.
That's the reason we've gotta get this done, Beth said, and like I said, she worked with it with stimulus money, so she knows how it works, that's the reason they're preparing to do this.
So then does it really make sense to pull roads out? Or are we, if?
I was being cheap.
Yeah, so I mean,
But roads is an infrastructure, you have to consider that, roads is considered maintenance in their definition. I mean, honestly, they do not consider roads as infrastructure,
It's a whole separate.
so that would be something on us, right now, if we did it that way.
well, no, I'm talking about the transportation bill that's going through
Yeah.
Congress right now, because it's got infrastructure upgrades as part of it, and I haven't read it.
Well,
So I don't
they
know what
have-
was in it, but,
Yeah, roads is a piece of that, and that, they kind of separate your roads from your water, sewer, storm and all that, so that is a piece that's coming out in the next one, if and when it comes out, so that would be part of that, your roads and streets.
No, we haven't got any money invested, now we would basically be gambling that roads would be part of that for this one-time allotment. And, I mean, we know that water and sewer is included, we know stormwater is included, because this has been identified all through there. So, we would be gambling if we go ahead and do the roads, saying, yes, that's gonna be a pocket that's not been released before, so that we wanna go ahead, I mean, we need a system, but are we willing to invest that right now?
so we need to go ahead and wait for that bill to get passed, so that,
On the roads,
yeah, on the roads.
yeah, not the stormwater, and not the water, and not the sewer. So.
I'm good with that, that makes sense.
So if we can go ahead and schedule a special meeting, let me ask that we're legal tonight. Where's the phone? They're coming for that. 14 days out, that would take care of the legal issues, right?
John's paying for it.
Well,
I'm over it.
okay. So, 27th,
He's gonna give it to the mouth
Yeah.
again. Might as well pay the assessment.
I'm gonna let you count since you gotta do that. On the 11th, which is Monday, October the 11th, could we have a special meeting just to address the approval of the GIS system for the water, sewer, and stormwater? We'll have the pricing at that time. Were you good with that, John? I mean, cause I know we've talked about it, what y'all be good with doing it, is that 4? Does that work?
Works for me.
That codes meeting that's scheduled for that day is not happening that day anyway.
I knew it was
so-
being canceled, in Publix it was, so if you're good with, is everyone good with that? And that way Leslie's here, she can give the announcement, so you can get it posted, and GCTV's here, we get it posted on there, so.
You
Does
said
that work?
Thursday. Well,
4 on the 11th, but you'll get these prices like ASAP, right? So,
I'm too for them to do
and so that'll be the only item on that agenda. Or the GIS system, Travis, the GIS system for the town of Monteagle for the water, sewer, and stormwater, is that correct? That would be system, or what's the mapping system, what it is.
I'll have the whole scope outlined, if
Okay,
there's any questions, feel free to call me or email.
okay. Can you check with Deb and see if there's any other language we need to add to that? No, this is she's gonna put out first, okay. Alright. So do we need to make a motion on that? Just, I don't know if we need to, or just go ahead and announce it, is that good enough? Okay, so I'm just gonna make sure that we cover our bases. Alright. Yes,
Does it have to be published announcement 2 weeks before the meeting? See, so we won't come out again until Friday, so.
well, we're not gonna use you as, only, we'll put it in the Herald too. Because the Herald is a paper still, they
Even
have to.
still, it won't, like, that's 14 days from
Can you put the
today.
Jasper? So can we do the 18th?
Yeah, that's, just to give you, I mean, otherwise you're gonna be, it would have to be today.
It'll be in town
He
later.
won't be in town the 18th.
Well, then,
19.
meeting's the 25th. So
Well,
if
see, we could do 2 readings, so we're gonna have to do 2 readings on this.
We wouldn't be able to
Budget
do,
amendment.
we wouldn't be able to do a reading on the 18th and do another on the 25th, would we? In their time between, in their
Yeah, no,
minimum time
no,
between the readings?
No. So if we do that, then that way the process can go ahead and begin.
So it's, he's not in
Well,
town.
then, could you do it the 15th?
I can do the 18th earlier in the day, but I can't after 3 hours.
Well, can y'all do it early? Can you do it at 9? What's the earliest you could do it, Doreen? You'll be the one.
What day is that on?
Monday.
Any-
No, Tuesday, I'm sorry. I could do it at 9.
Tuesday?
I could, 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock, what do you want?
I thought we were doing.
You
He
see, you
said
can
Monday
do it on the
the
18th? Okay.
In the morning I can.
Can, what, 8 o'clock? 8 o'clock work with y'all?
Good with you, Leslie?
Well, I mean, she's just looking at the time frame, because they're talking about the notices and announcements, it would work. Nate, are you looking at your calendar?
I am looking at my calendar, and it is my child's fall break, but right now, I think I'll be here, but even if I'm not here,
We could get
minus one
majority.
vote, y'all can do without me.
Yeah. So, Alan, are you good with it?
Yeah.
Okay,
And
so
I'll
we
be
at least
back.
got 4 that can, so you'll be back, that works. Okay, so we'll do it 8 o'clock on the 18th. And then, if it is approved then on the 25th, we have a meeting, we do the second reading and that's, and get them started on it. Okay. All right. Utilities, are we done with utilities?
Me too.
Vote for y'all.
I'm done with it.
Okay, thank you, John. Travis, I guess unless somebody else has a question for you, or if it is too late, we'll keep you here all night. You've got to go home to Warren County. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll go back to fire department. Rick?
When now?
Yeah,
Oh.
yeah. Sorry, Greg, we just got a few issues to deal with tonight. We need you one to stay with us.
Let the record show, I don't mind being on, as long as it's not regular.
It's not gonna be regular. Just gonna change it.
Okay. Good evening and thank you. I apologize for the delay in the monthly reports. In case you haven't heard, our chief is recovering from COVID and our assistant chief had some family illness issues to deal with, so we've had some valid reasons for the delay and I apologize for that. Just a point of information, you probably know the safety day at Monteagle Elementary School is scheduled for Friday, October 1st at 1 p.m. Police, fire, and EMS have been notified and all plan to attend, unless of course there's a major incident that would prevent that. We will be mailing a letter to the businesses in our fire district asking that they create an exit plan in the event of fire. We've mentioned this in other previous meetings. Of course, we will ask for their support as we continue our search for a new used truck. Speaking of which, there are trucks out there, but we're going hopefully to cut above. We're requesting maintenance records for a year and current certification of a pump. Some entities might be getting a truck that needs a lot more work than their purchase price, so we're trying to be as fiscally responsible as possible by staying within the budget amount and still purchase a well-maintained truck. Finally, training for our hydrant maintenance has been completed. The training has been completed. We will coordinate with the water department when we test Monteagle Elementary, the nursing home, and the apartment complexes. These locations are, for obvious reasons, first on the list. We'll then move to Cliff Tops, Cooley's, the assembly, and the local businesses. All of these commercial entities should be preparing fire plans, as mentioned earlier, considering traffic flow within their respective property, number and location of vehicle exits, and the type of fire. The reason I mention that is, and I don't know if they resolved it, but when I was at Cliff Tops, there was only one entrance in and out, side by side. They had talked about a back gate that, I think on Otter Falls Road or something back there. I don't know if that happened, but all of these entities need to have other ways to get in and out, depending on where the fire is. So finally, I just thank you all for your support and understanding the demands of the volunteers and for getting equipment that we need, which we've been working on, and to thank you and our community for their support. If there are no questions, I'm done.
I do want to tell you tonight, you asked me this, $4,000 for the fire truck, which you mentioned
Yes.
3,300 was for the vehicle sales. And
Yes.
we have, it's been 600 and around 6,400, is that right, Dan? And $50 in donations so far. That was the total donation sheet when you asked the other day, so that's.
Okay, and
Right.
also there's a $1,200 and something insurance claim that was paid, and we're following up the insurance claim payments as well.
That was
And that's
one.
just a general budget information.
And then Mr. Malutho and I met this morning, and we're working on a corporate letter to go out, and we're gonna be meeting with the county mayors and a couple other folks about donations for the fire truck that's coming in. Because where we work outside of the corporate city limits, so we've got working on that right now, so, but we have got like $6,000 from the mailing that we received from.
Good, and I'm sure there's more to come. I've been working with a couple of entities, they've been in touch with me, and hopefully within another month or so, we'll know about a truck and know about money. Because there's no need in waiting, you
The
know?
other thing, if you can get this for us, I know the assistant chief had mentioned to, maybe Jessica, at the, service we had on 9/11, if they can get us the sizes, he was mentioning some polo shirts for the town of Monteagle.
Yes, they're working on that.
So if they can get, the ones that need those,
Mhm.
if they can get that, then those can be ordered, they will place the order for the,
Right,
for the
they
shirts.
need
so-
sizes and quantity.
Yeah,
I don't know if it's every fireman or just the officers to start, but we're going to be meeting on that, and I'll get that information to you right away.
Is that what you do now? We do with the firemen, we need to do it all.
well, some do t-shirts and some do dress shirts, because all of them don't go to meetings, so unless they're going to an event, and if they are, they do need a dress shirt before a function. And also, Greg, can you see, where's the, flyer? Let me see that. Can we say that we can get you one of these tomorrow before the meeting, so that we can have the firemen aware of the truck and treasures we're doing for how long?
I don't know if that, I don't.
Well, that's gonna be on October the 28th, but we'll get you this tomorrow if you can take it to the meeting, and that way we can have some of them, because Janet, is that, well, I thought we'd announce it again, so. But Janet, with the school, they are going to come from the school to over here, correct? Because we're gonna be doing it at the pavilion, of course, that gets into park and recs, but that way we can have some firemen here to help with the children walking across the road whenever that they leave the school.
Okay.
That gives us,
I'll ask, what do I do, pick that up tomorrow?
yeah, if you
Is
can
that
get,
all right?
yeah,
Okay.
if you don't mind.
No, not at all.
So-
All right.
Anyone else have anything, Mr. Wood? Thank you, we do appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir, y'all.
All right, so we're a building inspector, we just change your order around all the time.
So I promise not to take up too much of your time. I don't have any business permits. So,
You don't have any? Everything else?
I've got two outstanding, one of them are not ready yet, and the other one I've just been lazy and hadn't done.
Okay, well, or I'll get you.
We're good on everything's good. Bring you up to speed on, I'm gonna quit calling these tiny homes. I'm gonna call them modular homes that are not, constructed on HUD regulations. I have called the fire marshal's office and I've asked for clarification. And I've been trying to get this for the last 10 years, folks. And my understanding is they're finally fixing to come down with, some really definitions and some good things we need to know about that'll help us, in what we're dealing with. The director was supposed to have called me, he hadn't called me yet, but, I've talked to them, they tell me there's something fixing to come down about modular homes that are not constructed under HUD regulations.
So are you talking a tiny home then? Is this a fixed structure, not? I think what we found out after talking to Mr. Tate today, and going back to those time frames before us, but whenever one of those areas were developed, it was an RV park. I think there wasn't
Across the road
Right.
was an RV park.
And so those were actually movable facilities, they stayed on axles so they could pull them out, right?
I think so, yes.
That's when it was first developed that way as an RV park, because you could park it in there and then take it out.
Yeah.
Because I think it was like a 30-day window they had those, where this other development we're discussing, I don't know how it was developed, so I'm not gonna say it, but now, my concern here, and I'm gonna ask you how we deal with it for the future. We've been told some of those houses are, what, 400 400 square feet?
Yeah, less than 400.
Well,
One of them's 200.
well, here's my dilemma here, and I wanna ask you, how do we do this? Do we look at that facility and say those were grandfathered in before? Do we go back to our ordinance and do we subtract them out and make it fit into the national definition of tiny homes? How do we fix this problem for the future? You don't have to do it tonight, but we need to resolve this, at some point and say, this is what size our tiny homes are, regardless to what's sitting where, when we start placing those in areas.
Well, if you're speaking of the existing, and I think there's 3 of them, up there, at what was, this Trailhead now, I think it was Hickory. There's 3 of them up there, and they've been there for years.
Mhm.
And I don't think you're gonna be able to do anything about those that are existing. I mean, legally, I don't believe you could ever have them moved out there. But now, what goes in there later on, we have control over. Is I'm answering your question?
Well, no, because my question was, which it was presented to me, well, if that's a tiny home there now, why can't we put the same thing in there? And I'm saying, well, it doesn't meet our current definition of tiny home, so do we need to reduce the size of a tiny home?
I think our current
It says
definition
600.
has a maximum of 600 feet. I don't think it
Well,
has.
does it have a
measure.
minimum, Earl?
It does not. And a lot of jurisdictions now are prescribing, your zoning districts, R1, R2, R3, and they have a prescribed minimum square footage that can go in those 3 districts.
Right.
Yeah, and Kimball, for one, the smallest, 600 feet is the smallest you can have in any district down there. 600 square feet.
I think we need to make sure what it is and that we have the minimum defined. So from this point out, I don't know what tiny houses are.
But that's gonna take, going through 2 readings and zoning ordinance changes and a lot of different things that, you guys have been fighting for a while here. And,
I mean, right now, our ordinance has 2 definitions for tiny homes. Both of them have a 600 square foot minimum. There's a tiny home that's a home that's less than 600, and then there's a tiny home on wheels, which is the modular thing.
well, modular means it comes in on wheels and they set it off on the foundation. The wheels go away.
Well, and
Yeah.
that's what the tiny home on wheels definition in our zoning ordinance
Yeah.
talks about.
But your zoning ordinance only allows tiny homes,
In
and they're
R4.
called the tiny homes in the ordinance in your R4 district,
Right.
which was abandoned when you changed the ordinances, 6-8 months ago, when you re-adopted an ordinance.
Well, but we have the ability to do R4, we just don't currently have R4.
That's correct.
And I think I heard you that the current tiny homes that are in that, what's currently zoned R3 are grandfathered in, there's nothing we can do about it. So I think
I feel that way. Yeah.
so our question is only, do we feel like that should potentially be zoned R4?
That's the thing,
Yeah.
and if it is, we need to define why and where, and this is where they can go. Not just because, or, I don't know, do we want one on every corner? I'm saying we need to come up with definition and make it clear from this point on, and we're good. That's
Well,
what
right,
we're
and
trying.
also, you guys also, the 2018 International Residential Code that you adopted specifies minimum requirements for any home. And one of those, and one of those is, at least a 70 square foot, one room in the house has to be at least 70 square feet. And no other room in the house can be less than 7 feet in any vertical distance. And also, you've got minimums of how far, your toilet, it's gotta be within 15 inches, sitting around the toilet's gotta be 15 inches from the tub. You've got to have at least a shower, and the shower's gotta be at least 30 by 30. I mean, there's and your, lighting regulations, venting regulations, and these homes that they're doing, building up and bringing over here, they don't meet those requirements. And so when somebody comes to me for a building permit, first thing I ask for is a floor plan. Let me see your floor plan. And that floor plan with dimensions on it, I can tell whether it would meet the minimum standards.
So what you're saying is we could permit tiny homes all day long, but the International Building Code might not allow them to actually be put on.
Well, I wouldn't write a permit for one.
Well,
that didn't
you
meet
could
the
permit it.
building code.
You could not permit it if that's what we've adopted,
Yeah.
because it has to go.
But it's
to
much
the-
simpler, if you just have regulations that minimum sizes that can go in any
Yeah.
district. It's much simpler to do that than it is.
Well, that's what we've got for R1, 2, and 3, right?
You don't, no, you don't have minimums, you know,
No, we
you
don't have a
square
minimum
footage
size.
in your zoning regs for R1.
Minimum house square footage?
Yeah,
No, we did.
No.
For sure.
well, I don't, not to my knowledge.
Well, I'm just saying, these things need to be addressed, I don't wanna, cause I know this is going, but this is something by our next meeting, I would like for us to have time to look at definition, and let's be consistent as we move forward. And from what you've said, and of course I didn't do the math, but there's a formula there the size of a tiny home in the 2018 building
There's a
codes.
formula for minimum standards for any
But
home.
it would also give you, if you do the math on inches and feet,
Yeah.
it would give you the minimum square footage, correct?
Exactly, what, yeah.
So if it's not in there in square footage, we figure out what that is, and that's the minimum, and this is the max in that area, and then we go forward. So, in an R4, I'm not talking about, they
What
are,
Are they allowed in the city limits?
is a tiny home, is Monteagle today.
Are they allowed? I would always thought that you couldn't have a tiny home inside the city limits.
yeah, it says you can,
You can, in R4, according to your zoning ordinance, but you don't have an R4.
so that's what we've gotta decide, what's gonna be R4s, that's what I'm saying. And then,
And R4 is one of those, districts like, one of those where you put things you don't want it. Unfortunately, that's where the fire department go and all that.
well, we might wanna look at that, everybody that lives in tiny home, I don't wanna be beside the massage parlor, I don't know, if that's their choice, but seriously, if we could deal with this at the next.
Well, I'm really hoping the state will come down, the state has been very lax, in my opinion, of making a decision on this, because there's lobbies, people out there that's lobbying for, you know, these smaller homes, which there's nothing, I guess, wrong with them, except they don't meet minimum standards, and you know, life safety issues are hard to meet, and those type of things.
We do
And you
have
don't want them
minimum.
sitting right next to R1, you don't want a $300,000 house and a $60,000 tiny home sitting next to it. Right, it's the value of your property.
We do have minimum square footage. For R1, the minimum square footage of dwelling unit is 800 square feet.
Okay.
For R2, it's 600 square feet. For R3, it's 600 square feet. For R4, it's 0. And
Okay.
for
All right.
industrial, it is 0.
You say minimum or maximum?
Minimum.
Minimum.
Minimum is 800 in R1, 600 in R2 and R3. And
And
that's,
zero in R4,
and
but we don't
anything,
have.
anything below 600 is a tiny home, which can only go in R4, which has a minimum square footage of 0.
But
But we have
according,
no R4s.
We have no area zoned for R4.
so according to Earl, there is a minimum if you do the formula that's in the 2018 building codes, because it tells you a bathroom has to be this size, this has to be this size, so if you really wanna get technical, there's a minimum, it may be 100 square feet. I don't know what that definition is, but somewhere in there is a minimum, there's a minimum size it has to be. Or it wouldn't tell you how big the bathroom has to be and how far the toilet has to be set apart. Somewhere there's a map.
It has to meet those conditions, and it makes the renders the size of what those conditions are.
And he said one had to be 70, square feet, so. But if we can just determine those and then we can determine where they go, then we would be a whole lot better off when we're.
Can you make a recommendation as to where we put tiny homes and what the?
What I'd like to do is wait till the state comes down with what they're gonna do. 'Cause that's really what we're gonna have to do also. But I just want them to, it's about time they did come down on this some way or another. Maybe this time it's gonna happen. I'm sitting on 3 building permits right now. I have one for the pilot project, which they still have not bid, I don't know if they bid it out or not, I still don't have a licensed contractor on that one, so I'm waiting on that one to sign it. Petro, bring everybody up to date, we're working together, they're going, I finally got it worked out, and they're coming around pretty good about all this. I've got the whole project now under one contractor. Originally, they wanted the building to be under one contractor, and they wanted the site work to be on another contractor, and I just said, So, we've got all that under Lee Adcock, now, and, we're still working through some issues on that.
What about Rocky Top?
That Rocky Top is gonna be phase 5 or phase 6 or something down the road. They're gonna do this project as one phase, the Rocky Top's gonna be another. However, I have talked to Brian, and I've also talked with Ken Holt, which is gonna be the guy, Lee Adcock, is gonna be in charge of the project. And I have told them that we have to have the screening fence or screening wall, at Rocky Top in the first phase of this project. So, whether that happens or not, I don't know, but that's what I'm pushing for.
Well, if it doesn't happen, that means they're not compliant, and you have to address it the other way, correct? You're not being compliant.
I'm using what little influence I have.
Well, I'm just saying that would be the only alternative if it's not in phase 1.
Early
then
on,
you have to address it.
rather than being the last thing and stuff.
Because it's been more than 6 months since Rocky Top has been approved, and so if they hadn't started, we did.
Well,
If they
the other
don't,
thing about it is, site plans do not, don't go away, they're good forever.
right, so at some point,
Doesn't have any kind of expiration date.
we'll need to start fining them for being out of compliance with their
That's why
process.
you wait for fence, with the screen.
Yeah, yeah.
So, but if they're going to take care of it now in phase 1, then we don't have to avoid that issue. So you said you put them on notice, so we'll just go from there.
Well,
I mean, do you know
good
when
matter
that
out
goes
there, I
there?
think that we're working well together right now. I'm happy with the way the project's going, and so, I'm feeling better about it than I did in it. But,
Do we have a start time on construction? Do you have any idea?
well, I do not, I would thought it had already started.
Whether,
The project's being done on 3 different permits. We have a permit on the building itself, which I have signed. We have a permit on the site work, paving, striping, and all that. That one has been signed. The 3rd permit is on the gas pumps and all the tanks and all that, plus the screening wall that goes behind it, plus the landscape. And that's the one that we've not got numbers put together. I have insisted on, contractor providing me with what we call a schedule of values from the contractors, rather than not, saying the guys would do anything wrong about not judging the project properly and not pricing it properly. The schedule of values comes from the contractor, and it's on what they call an AIA form, which is architect, all that stuff. It's legally, it's documented, blah, blah, blah. So I've got schedule of values on those 2 permits that's been signed, and I'm waiting on that 3rd one. I've actually talked to Ken Holt today, and he said we should be getting it pretty soon.
Do you anticipate issuing that 3rd permit?
It could be just a matter of days.
Yeah, okay.
And that's basically where we are with that. If anybody's got any more questions, I'll try to answer them about RDT or petrol.
No, I want to give them the opportunity to do right.
Yeah, I think it's a proper thing to do. I got one permit out in Cooley's Riff, that I have not signed yet. It is a situation where the footing is gonna be getting into a lot of rock and stone, and, anything other than a conventional dirt, digging out hard soil and all that, anything that's outside of that conventional footing, I require Tennessee licensed engineer to design the footing. And that takes liability off me, puts it on somebody else. The gentleman that pulled the permit, he got me all those letters and stuff, and I got all that, and looked down at the bottom, and it was an engineer out of Canada. So, I had to go back to him and say, hey, I've got to be Tennessee guy, and he's working on that. Anything else y'all might have, I'll try to, if I can, I'll try to answer it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Point of information. The discussion on the truck stop, does that include Mr. Kilgore's property?
That's what they were asking about
I
parking.
know, and I don't understand, that's what I'm asking.
Yes.
It does include his property as well, so it's one
No,
parcel?
no,
No.
phase 5.
That was what Rocky
Right
Top.
now, it's a total different thing than Petro.
But you said you did ask in phase 1 for the screening to be done in phase 1
Yes.
on Rocky Top.
Yes.
Is that what you were asking?
No, I wanna know the future of Rocky Top. I understand the screening, I
Well,
understand what Earl said,
It-
but
When does,
Here's
I
the
thought it was
deal.
gonna be one piece.
The truck repair bays and all that are part of the petrol deal.
Okay,
I mean, you got petrol system, you gotta have this to have petrol.
right.
Now, right now, I'm not sure where that's all at.
That's no
If I had to guess, I'd say that they're gonna borrow, they're in the process of borrowing money, and once they get all that money borrowed, they'll go ahead and do rock and top all at the same time.
No, I see, okay.
Well,
Thank
that'd
you.
be my thoughts.
Understood.
And that's just what I think.
That answers your
Okay.
Okay?
Okay, now we'll go to Park and Recs.
For Parks and Recreation, Andy Patel is here, and you might wanna have him talk to us a little bit about the cricket league that he wants to start here, and
Did you bring your proposal tonight? Your written proposal?
Oh, we have one in here.
Do we have, I know we had
I don't know.
it's in the, so, yeah. Yeah.
just tell folks a little bit about what you'd like to do.
Yeah, we was trying to like play cricket, maybe like every Saturday at the baseball field. And we have like 10 to 12 people right now, but I'm thinking if we get that field just one night every week, I think we can bring more people to play with us. I think it'll be good for community around people, because we're already doing few, but just didn't have the opportunity to get people to play with us.
And you explained that these would be people from Jasper, South
Yeah, we can
Pittsburgh,
get, yeah.
Swanee.
Once we start
Awesome.
playing, we can get more and more people involved from Kimball, Jasper, maybe from Swanee too, and Tracy, maybe from Colmont and everywhere.
You have a very wide net of people that
Yeah,
play
yeah, we can,
cricket,
yeah.
which we didn't know.
Because right now Chattanooga is already big. They have a league. They play like 11 teams from all different Georgia and everywhere. Just something to do with like generations too to play.
What we would have to, as we talked with Mr. Patel, that what we would have to do, we'll have to come up with an agreement with our insurance company. And also there would be a minimum amount as far as a charge for the cleaning and for lights and for, those type of things they want to use it. So Jessica and I have met with him, and so if the council is agreeable for us to go ahead and just pursue this with a contract that we would have, with you guys and the cost involved, that we could go ahead and try to start working on this and get it done. I would prefer our attorney does look at it because of the liabilities that could be created.
How many nights a week are you talking?
Probably we're just one night.
One night a week?
Yeah. Probably it will be Saturday night, and if it rains, we're not gonna do it because the pitch is so wet. You
Yeah.
can't play it in that.
It's either want to do it from like 10 till maybe 1, and then would need lighting and to make sure that somebody does it, and also we can't bring in a person to work at that time, so we've gotta make sure that that's covered on Mondays by an employee.
That's my only question about it. What's behind the timing? Why so late at
That's
night?
what I was.
It's all the business people. Because whoever is playing cricket, they all have businesses like
And they close.
around and everywhere. And late night, we can play all night if we have to.
So I've seen cricket on TV. I've
Yeah,
never
yeah.
watched it. I want to come watch it.
Me too.
But that's after quiet hours in Monteagle, according to our ordinance. How much? What are we talking about in terms of noise and? I mean, we're talking about a crowd of 300 people.
No, no, no.
Are you gonna have
Who's
cheerleaders?
gonna be there?
Yeah, yeah.
Yes.
At the most, I'm thinking maybe 20 plus people, and whoever is gonna come, they're gonna play. They're not gonna watch like as an audience.
Okay.
He says they don't shout and scream and they're not getting drunk. That kind of stuff's not happening. If not, then the police will be out there. No,
You're not gonna have cheerleaders on the sideline?
No, not yet, not yet.
That's my only concern. Otherwise,
Yeah, yeah.
I think it's a great idea. So maybe in the agreement, we can put something in there about
Yeah.
our
Their
noise
noise
ordinance.
ordinance, yeah.
Making sure that
we're covered.
we're not getting too loud. But
Yeah.
I'm not worried about it. Put it in
I
there.
think it'll be a good deal.
You gonna play?
No, I just will watch. No, I may not watch at 10 o'clock.
We're gonna continue to work to, make sure that we can try to get this to happen for you.
Yeah, thank you.
So do we need to do a resolution?
No, we'll just have to, if you are agreeable,
Oh,
I'll contact the attorney, we'll find out cost, and then we can have a contract that he can sign for like 6 months, if it works, and then if it does, keep renewing it, which, if that's still, we just want everybody to know and to present it's another effort that people wanna start in the town, you know.
Yeah, something new.
And y'all might get to play cricket.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The other thing that we're working on is, we are now actively advertising for a little coordinator for the baseball program, which starts in the spring. This will be a part-time position starting in January, and it'll go through the end of June. And this person would be responsible for working with the coaches to organize the schedule, get the umpires, run the concession stand, oversee the management of the baseball field. And the advertisement should be in the local newspapers next week, and it's on our Facebook page and our website. So we hope that there'll be some interest and we'll get a good candidate to work with the baseball program. Any questions about that?
Now, do you have a deadline for that person when we're gonna cut off taking an application?
We have not set a deadline.
November 19th.
Somebody said November 19th, she said it, so there is one. I just did that.
And if we don't have one, then we'll extend it.
I'm good.
Does she have her flyer for this one?
Yeah.
You got your flyer for the trunk or treat.
We have a Halloween event that will be on October the 28th. That's a Thursday. We're working in conjunction with the Monteagle Elementary School. We'll do trunk or treat, and that'll be partly at the elementary school and partly at the Hannah Pickett Park. The children will have a little parade. They'll leave the elementary school parade over on the Mountain Goat Trail to Hannah Pickett Park, and we're going to show a Halloween movie starting at 6:15. And I've heard the fire truck or the firemen may help with getting the kids from one side to the other.
And we are gonna ask the businesses to line up in the Hannah Pickett Park area, just like they did before. We're gonna back in there like the
Yeah.
vendors do.
Like they do at Mountain Market.
So they can give out their candy, and the kids can walk around that way instead of having to walk down the road again. So are we gonna contact the businesses and let them know that they're welcome to do that?
We got flyers.
And I mean, we're gonna make sure that they get those too, cause you know how sometimes that they didn't see it.
Yeah, I just don't know how, I gotta talk to Debbie about that.
Okay.
But it'll be really good because the cars will be backed in there, just like the vendors at Mountain Market. Everything will be right here at Hannah Pickett Park. They can go straight to the pavilion to watch the movies. So it'll work out. This is gonna be on the 28th.
Hey Jared, do you have this flyer, so we can have somebody here?
You gave it to me.
I know I didn't correct, I'm not sure if I did.
One of the other things that we've been working on is playground equipment to replace the playground equipment that had to be removed from Hannah Pickett Park. We've talked with one vendor and we have an appointment next week to talk to a second vendor about getting a proposal. And we hope very soon to have some new equipment there. Probably this will be a playground that's built in 2 or 3 phases so that we can budget properly. But the proposals have looked real good. And I think people will be happy with those. And the other thing, we've set a date for the Christmas parade. It's going to be December the 4th with a parade first and then a visit with Santa Claus and Mrs. Claus in the gazebo after, where the children can talk to Santa and also get refreshments. So you can put that on your schedule for December the 4th. And we also will be talking to groups about having a float. I think it's been about 5 o'clock, but I'm not sure that right. I believe that's all
The
I have.
first and second.
Yeah, because that's what you're gonna do the first weekend. Remember the
Yeah.
Shaw Monteagle for the vendors in here that y'all talked about?
The shop Monteagle, the vendor, the crafts, the vendor thing that we were gonna set up here inside the conference room here, the first and the second, probably 8 to,
Whatever time the office is open.
Yeah, 8 to 4.
8 to 4,
yeah, we need to put that on that list.
okay.
Shop local,
And they just need to contact,
City Hall,
well,
just to set up, to see if they can set up.
if you want them to contact Leon, then y'all can coordinate it with City Hall.
It's fine with me, they can contact me or Jessica, either one.
Yeah, and so that way, we could have a list of vendors and they could set up, and they could get to set up for free, and then people can come and shop local. Now, it has to be crafts and or baked goods, you know, it's homemade.
Right.
So,
Right.
and hopefully help with the local businesses, shop money at first. That's what I have. Do you have anything else, Mr. Long? Thank y'all for the decorations. I know y'all did work really hard to get those out for, the fall, and they look really good.
Christmas is gonna look better.
And the kids are all really enjoy it, because they agree. All right, then we go over to, that's all on that list. Old business, I don't have any in here. Do y'all have any? Does anybody have any that? So we have two
Old business, you got any?
Yeah, I wanna bring up the beer ordinance that we were talking about.
All right, you've got a recommendation from MTS in your packet, so we got.
Yeah, so in reading this, I don't think we sent them the correct requested change. Because it says that it's subjective, which was the first email I sent out, Sam said, yeah, that probably won't work because it's subjective. So then I wrote another one that specified changing the distance to 200 feet. And down here in her email, it says you can certainly look at amending your ordinance to shorten the distance. So I wonder if maybe she accidentally got the original email I put rather than the one that we were intending to have them review.
Okay. Was it August the 2nd? I don't know, Nate, because she said send it to, you don't have it for you. Okay.
No, this is August the 21st. I sent this to Debbie and to Mayor Rodman.
Okay, well, I didn't send it, it says she did send the first one, but if it says we can amend the feet to 200 feet or to match what the state is.
Yeah.
I tell you, after talking to, Hannah, myself at that meeting, if we can amend the language to say the same distance that the state utilizes legally without putting at 200 feet, because they may change theirs to 150, then that way we're consistent.
Yeah, the problem is the current liquor store language is door to property boundary. And what we've been talking about is doing door to door. So we would need to change both of those, which is fine, we can do that. But what that email on the 21st that I sent said 200 feet door to door, which would get us, which would get everybody in compliance in town.
What we can do is send that one back to Hannah and let her rewrite it, and have it ready for the next meeting, and that way we can approve, right, the ordinance. We'll just do that, because that'll be an ordinance, that won't be a, because I think we're only in agreement, we need to be consistent with what the, liquor laws of the state says, not just the city, so she'll make sure she's got the one on the 22nd, just get her to.
Yeah, 21st at 7:37 is when I sent it.
All right, so just make a note and show it. Okay. All right, do you have anything else? No?
No.
Okay. All right, so we'll go down to new business resolution number 03-21 rural development. This is from Beth Jones for the town of Monteagle for the application for USDA rural development. It is for a community facility loan and grant for a fire truck, and so what Beth has to have is this a resolution before she can even apply for any type of loans or grants for the town of Monteagle. Resolutions are only take one reading, so with, tonight this would be approved so she can move forward with this effort. And Beth Jones is our coordinator with Southeastern Development.
Is this for us to provide funding for the current fire truck we're looking for, or for a new fire truck?
She's looking for a new truck.
How come the total is not to exceed 150,000? I don't think that'll buy a new fire truck, will it?
Right here. Well, that's what I asked. We did approve one for 150,000 already. So I don't think that number she may have put in was larger. A new truck was gonna be $500,000, correct?
Oh, easily.
Well, but she's just applying for the grant, so probably what we could do, can we just make that change to $500,000, which would be a simple, I mean, we all have.
Why don't we move it to 750 or a million?
1,150,000.
The new truck is easily, Madam Mayor, 800,000
So if
to
we
Olivia.
said not to exceed $1 million of looking for funding for it.
Well, not to exceed that,
Well, that's
Maybe
not
what?
saying we're approving it, but not to exceed it,
A million.
yes.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So that would approve the resolution, so. And again, she's seeking funding with this, she's not applying for funding.
Right.
Okay, so, do we have a motion on the, resolution 03-21 for the town of Monteagle application for USDA rural development, community facility, loans and grants, fire truck, that would be administered through Southeastern Development Search?
I mean, that we approve resolution 0321.
I'll second.
With the only change in that would be the 150 should say 1 million, not exceed. Any other discussion? Roll call vote, Nate,
Yes.
Alvin,
Yes.
Jessica?
Yes.
Doreen?
Yes.
Myself, yes. Now, the next, resolution, let's, for the record, it only will be, from this point on, it is not, of course, it does not go to anything that's happened in the past, okay? It's not retroactive, it's from this point on. This resolution is a resolution of the Town of Monteagle Planning Commission recommending amending the zoning ordinance to remove section 12-7, the subsection of C of the zoning ordinance. And then, this is, Nate has it up on the screen where we have to go through grounds of amendment, is that right, Nate?
Yeah, this is grounds for a zoning amendment.
So that would be removed out of the ordinance. So, what is the will of the council to remove? That was based upon a recommendation from Sam and Garrett to the planning commission and sent on to us. So, and Sam Elliott being our attorney.
Well, I like it in there. I don't think it's that hard for us to articulate that we have looked at these 5 items. I think the 5 items make sense, and I know Sam's position is to say you don't wanna create another hurdle for yourself that might cause litigation, but I just think there are 5 easy questions to answer, and it helps us, it helps the public know that we're doing our job. So I don't know, I'm a little ambivalent about removing it.
Well, do you wanna table it to the next meeting and then we can get another, I can get Sam to send us his opinion in depth with this?
How do others feel? I mean,
Yeah.
I think we got enough rules and regulations. We've got rules to cover rules to cover rules. I just don't take them out.
Okay.
I mean, that's me. So it's up to you two.
Well, it's been here for a long time and it's not served as badly, so I'm not sure why we take it out.
It just never was applied, that was the problem, so we're gonna have to make sure and ensure that we apply the rules that we have in the book, you know. Alvin?
Oh, my thoughts, I really don't see it, if we take it out, it would be, if it simplifies, things. So, yeah, I would be okay.
You want it taken out or you want it left in?
Take it out.
Okay.
So that's 2 to 2. You're the tiebreaker.
We gotta have a motion first, it has to be second to break that tie. So, back to resolution number 04-21 to remove the section of 1207 sub C of zoning.
I make a motion to approve resolution 04-21.
Okay, do we have a second?
I would say.
Okay, any more discussion? Since we've had discussion, roll call vote. Nate?
No.
Alvin?
Yes.
Jessica?
No.
Doreen?
Yes.
I vote yes. And the reason is that we are so regulated right now. We're going to do due diligence with the signs and everything else that's added. So if we hadn't added those caveats in there, I would have said, no, leave it in there, but we have added things to that ordinance that we still have to do with posting signs, mailing letters, doing those things. So I'm explaining why. We've added other regulations, that's the reason why. Let's just add something that could cause problems. Okay, that's that. I'm gonna go ahead and ask the council, do you have anything you want to bring up?
I just want to let everybody know that the Tracy City Boy Scouts and Cub Scouts are going to be selling Christmas wreaths again. And I know that the town has in the past been a generous supporter, and a lot of the wreaths that have been on City Hall and downtown have been Boy Scout wreaths. And for anybody out there, you're welcome to contact me, or Jodine Wade is in the audience if you want to do something tonight. But we are going to be selling wreaths, and we hope you all get out and support our kids who are doing a lot of good stuff in the community.
And I know it's probably been asked here in town hall, and until they define the decorations to really say how we're going to utilize those posts this year, then maybe something we can order, but we don't know if we're utilizing the posts as we have in the past. So we really can't answer that until the design crew puts their plan together. I don't think you're quite ready for that, are you?
We got till the end of October, I think, to get our orders together, so just wanted to let everybody know.
And I know Alvin's stepping out, so there is one other item that we maybe could go over the calendar events, and but there is one other item we do need to discuss tonight. As many of you know, we have been trying to do due diligence with our committees and with all of like the planning commission, those that are working on volunteer committees, and trying to get things in order. We are now at the point that we need to have a BZA board. I talked with Sam to get definition. It can be 7 members. He said that it's a makeup, of course, normally, and it's not locked into keys, but 7 members, and you usually have someone from the board, usually the mayor's representation. Then I'm making a recommendation that Richard Black, Nate, I've spoke with you, if you would take the position, that was the only thing, doing the day-to-day supervision, clarifying. So if you would be interested in sitting on that board, but I've also just said who are the people in the community might be involved, and I think we came up with a list of business owners, and people that have mentioned they would like to be involved in things. So if it's agreeable with the board, Nate, myself, Richard Black, and there would be 4 other members from the community that would be picked, and we'll go ahead and create that board and do that as soon as possible. Because we may have to meet over the issue we know with lakeside pollution, that we're trying to resolve that. There's several other things we need to resolve that's going to require, according to our attorney, a BZA meeting. Now, we can't just do variances because we want to. He told us that as well, being Sam Elliott, our attorney. But we're going to need a BZA board. So, don't know, do we need to vote on this as far as can make up, since it's already there? But if you are agreeable, or you have any comments or suggestions, or you're not agreeable, have a no talk about the makeup of the BZA board. So
Do you accept that mission?
they would be willing to do it, and Richard, because of being on the planning commission, and that would still give 4 other people that it's not a made up mind on something they voted on in the course, so they still have the majority to vote. Because we already voted on it, we disagree with it, just like not. So if that's.
So you're gonna talk with the people that we talked about, being interested in the board, you're gonna meet with those folks?
Yeah, I'll call them and see if they are, and if not, then, suggestions are welcome. People make the comments, and
We don't have to do that in a meeting, you get to just appoint them, right?
well,
I mean, with
yeah,
subject to our conversation.
subject to this conversation here tonight, yes, if you're agreeable. If you don't, we can bring them in at a meeting and, do it.
No,
I'm
just
saying
curious.
it's however the board wants to do it, but we can do that, but we're gonna have to do it soon, So, I'm just saying, how's the board's will? We could say, okay, next meeting, we wanna bring in these people in, do we want to see if they wanna sign, but that would be a little tiring.
No, I think it makes sense, and we don't have to do anything by resolution, because our zoning ordinance says we're supposed to have it, so we're just doing something we're supposed to be doing anyway, right?
Yes, we just haven't had a need for it, so that we're going to have a need probably in the next 30 days.
We can't really okay anybody until you call them and say, hey, do you wanna do it?
Right, and then
So
of
we
course
really
that would
can't
be
okay them.
provided just like all the other committees are provided. So, if you're agreeable, we'll pursue that this week.
Works for me.
All right, the other thing, it was mentioned about shirts. We're not gonna do a lot of shirts, but if you're interested in getting, polo shirts for like me to get the other training, which was required, we don't have it all done. But if you want a polo shirt, we need to get the size to Deb, and she'll do the placement of that order, will have its kind of Monteagle logo on it. So, but occasionally, you know, we do need those. Is that all right, Deb, you would order them? So I think those are all the things that I have. So we have citizens that want to be heard. If you'll come up to the podium, sir.
Thank you, Mayor Rodman, and ladies and gentlemen. Some of you might know I am a concerned citizen about the potential pollution of Laurel Lake. I'm also a professional engineer, and on my own volition, I did a study of the Sadler drawings, the site plans, and testified before the Planning Commission, before they made their decision to approve the site plan, that there would be pollution of Laurel Lake as a result of the design of Sadler and Associates for the RBT property for the truck plaza. Last week we had a pretty heavy rainstorm, and the runoff from the earthwork up there at the RBT Enterprises property ran into your metropolitan sewer system. It went outside the bounds of the silt barriers that were supposed to be protecting the public, and got into the storm sewer system. The effluent left the storm sewer system on the west side of the lakeside collision properties and polluted the headwaters and Lake Laurel itself. And
What date is this? I mean, you're bringing up a date. What date you said last week? Do you have a
I think
date?
it started on about the 20th. I have photos here that I'll show to you, and I've given them to the public there. I want to just pass them around. Some of them have dates here, like this is the 21st. And that's showing spillage over the barriers. And
This says 7/21/21. This says July. So I don't know. So this has got a July date
So
on
this
it.
was
Yeah.
last
So,
week.
well, I'm just saying it says July is your date on your pictures.
Okay, that's a good point. This shows where it goes into the
Let's see that.
Monteagle storm drainage system, and where it comes out of the storm drainage system into what we call Hidden Creek, and then flows into Laurel Lake.
Well, and this doesn't have a date on it, so we don't have a date of reference there. It's just photos we have to.
This is a before and after. It was taken probably on the 20th, and then on the 21st or 22nd, showing the before and after in the same location.
And this is where now?
This is in Hidden Creek.
I don't know, I'm not familiar with what that
Hidden
is.
Creek is west of the lakeside collision, and
That's where
it
the-
flows into Laurel Lake.
Nate, is that where, whenever we did that
Where
little?
we put the dam in?
Yeah, is that not the
Is that
dam?
in the power line right away?
I'm not sure, he just called it Hidden Creek, I don't know. John's not here, we
Probably.
can't.
This is these are pictures of the Laurel Lake, the siltation that's taking place in that lake.
Yeah, we'll just keep those because we need to have John to review them and we need those to be reviewed. So,
We've sent these photographs to TDEC, but they have indicated to me that the stormwater pollution of Laurel Lake due to this or any other activity is the responsibility of Monteagle, not of TDEC.
Well, TDEC has not notified us with any of that information that's been
What they
sent. When
told
did you
me-
send, when did you send it to them? Cause we don't.
Jennifer Jones,
No, when? Jennifer's not sent us anything as of date.
well, the response was in September
Okay.
22.
Okay.
The point I wanted to make, they said we should request from the city of Monteagle source water protection plan. I don't know if one exists or not.
Can you get us the email from Jennifer? We'd like to have the email from the state of Tennessee. Do you have that email?
I'm sorry.
Do you have the email from Jennifer that says what we should require them?
Yes, I do.
Okay. Can we get a copy of the email?
Sure.
Okay.
I'll give it to you right after this.
Okay.
And it says, I should be able to get that copy from the city, and I'm formally requesting it with this presentation.
Well, when we get it, we'll give it to the engineer because I don't think any of us are experts at this.
I'm sorry?
I said, we will give this to our engineer, and the fellow, if we'd known this earlier that was gonna be presented, we could have left, he could have stayed here and addressed these things or got those
That
things.
would have been good.
Because none of us are engineers, and we're not capable of answering those questions, so we'll have to have him to review that for
Okay.
John with this stuff. So you're making the formal request,
I'm a formal request for that plan, yes.
okay, in the plan, Deb, we need to make sure that we've got this. TDEC does not have a program in place for post-construction of water sites.
They have several responses in there you can go through.
Then, but the one thing you're requesting for the record is what? Well, I'm saying the plan, we need to know the stormwater protection plan, so Deb's got that, so we
You
can
may
get that.
want to write it down here, it's source water protection plan.
That's what we're trying to make sure that we get you the right plan.
Yes,
That's the reason we're saying that.
yes, ma'am.
Okay.
And this issue might be addressed to your engineer too, as well. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. As soon as we can get this to him, then we'll start getting responses back to you, sir.
Thank you.
Does anyone else have anything to say? If not, do we have a motion? Adjourn? Do we have a second? All in favor? Aye. Thank you.